wasn't about the asset class that mattered. It was the who that mattered. And I'll tell you two stories, but this was pre-Origin, pre even getting my master's. And of course, you take recommendations from people who you think are smart. And I invested in this one deal in Austin, Texas, and it was multifamily. And that was in like '05, '06. So very bad vintage, but obviously right market. And what happened with that deal was great. It was unlevered. It was a piece of land. It was a land bank, and there was a unit on top of it. But the idea was like, let's hold this thing for a few years, develop it, do things, and then '08 happens, right? And so our property was fine. It was unlevered. It was in a really good neighborhood. We didn't care. But what happened was the developer wasn't fine. And so he found a way to rescue himself by taking our unlevered property and leveraging it up. And I only found out about this through, through a Google search. And I was doing some research, something didn't fit right with me. And I'm like, wait a minute, he just borrowed like $900,000 against our property and used it to rescue his other properties that we have no interest in whatsoever. Well, you can imagine, I mean, I blew up. I called my friend, what is going on here? He didn't know anything about it. We called this guy. He, was basically justified it, pointing to some clause in the partnership agreement that allowed him to borrow against the partnership. And you're like, yes, but for the benefit of the partnership, right? So it erupted in a lawsuit. I found myself flying down there, spending, probably $80,000 in legal fees. It lasted like a year and a half, a lot of lost sleep. And it wasn't fun, right? Because you question your decision making, your, everything about it. And so that was an incredibly bad experience. And so that really jaded me about the smaller type investors as well. And then my other experience that really went bad was with Lehman Brothers. And that was interesting because you're like, okay, well, I'll go with the big guys, right? They are really smart. They know what they're doing. And I'll never forget that this was around '08. That I invested with Lehman Brothers, right? Origin was just starting. I was looking to put out money. I had a lot of cash, that I was looking to invest at that time, loved real estate, and thought that, hey, maybe I can, if I make an investment here, I can actually learn about what they're doing internally. Well, I'll never forget. It was like a dog and pony. They promised the world like, oh, it's clear, like things are falling off. We're going to be prudent, this and that. And I remember signing the documents, and like a week later, they called, I think, 60% of my capital. And I was like, what? Well, what I had learned is they were warehousing all of these assets that they bought at the height of the market in '07 and kind of the year before they launched this fund, and the write down happened in like snap like that, and it was another wake up call, right? You can't really trust the big guys and you can't trust the small guys, and it was sort of like nobody's going to be a better steward of my money than me and make better decisions, and why not just do this directly? And so you learn by doing, and we jumped in, my partner and I, and never looked back.